What is up, everybody? Welcome into our live post-game show here on the Pack a Day podcast. I'm your host, Andy Herman. You follow me on Twitter at Andy Herman NFL. We are being presented today by Luiges Pizza. There's no victory pizza to be had today. We are all worse off from having watched that game. The Packers did get a late field goal to make it 16-3. Packers do score points in that game. That's all I got to say about that for the most part. I'll try to get to as many questions as I can. But yeah, go get yourself a Luiges Pizza. It'll make you feel a little bit better. I'm going sausage and mushroom following that game today. So yeah, hopefully that does make me feel a little bit better. But yeah, make sure to follow Luiges Pizza on social media at Luiges Pizza and of course, luigespizza.com. Not a ton to talk about. Obviously, the one thing you were trying to do in that game is stay healthy. And Green Bay couldn't accomplish that either, which is really disappointing. And I thought some really poor decision making from Matt in this one, specifically with playing Javon Bullard, Evan Williams, Jaden Reed. And they clearly didn't want to play Jaden. He was only in because Melton got hurt. That's not an acceptable answer to me in that one. Now, Jaden didn't get hurt, so that is fine, at least as far as I know. But there's no reason to. There's no requirement to play three wide receivers. Yeah, you can't throw the ball anyway. You're not even calling timeouts to try to score at the end of this game. You don't care. So I'll just put it this way. Go into a game with a goal, what your goal is for the game. And it was clear that Green Bay set the goal to try to keep healthy, or your key players healthy. That was the goal of this game. Once you come to that conclusion, nothing else in game matters. Like, you've already decided that. So for me to ever put Jaden Reed in that game, like, if you have to go goal line and put in extra offensive linemen, if you need to go, well, that's a bad pick by Tyler Shuck, and that is going to probably end that game. If that's a pick six, they get him down, but that's probably a dagger. Falcons probably going to win that game. So yeah, Saints lose, Falcons win. I think that puts Carolina in, right? If I'm remembering correctly. But either way, yeah, just a poor decision to play Jaden in those situations. And then at safety. Now, if you look at the defensive backfield, okay, Kitano Ladapo and Jonathan Baldwin should have been your safeties in this game. Evan Williams and Javon Bullard never should have played. Ever should have played. And then you're going to have to look at then corner, because you have Bartholomew and you have, Bo Melton goes out injured, of course. So he no longer is an option. You needed him at wide receiver, so he's never really an option. You have Jalen Simpson. So those are your four backups that you can play. Now, at some point, you don't have the ability to dictate quite as much on defense as offense. On offense, you can decide to go, one or two wide receiver sets. On defense, if they come out with three or four wide receivers, you need defensive backs on the field. But that's not required to be Javon Bullard or Evan Williams. And I think pretty much everyone would agree to say, hey, play Carrington Valentine. Play Carrington Valentine. Play Keyshawn Nixon. I would much rather either Nixon or Valentine be out there than Javon Bullard or Evan Williams. And so for Bullard to be out there and to get hurt in this game is just a stupid decision. It is a legitimately stupid decision. If Valentine's out there and he gets hurt, so be it. You can manage that. You could have put Diggs out there as well. You just kept playing Diggs, which I would not have hated either, just to get him more playing time. If it's me, I'm probably going Diggs and Bartholomew outside with Simpson in the slot and Baldwin and Oladapo as your safeties. And there's just no chance. And even as Bullard's going down, Evan Williams is coming back out on the field. It's insane. It's absurd. And again, I don't even care what happens. So if you need to go base, I don't care if they're in a 5 wide receiver set. Go base and play zone. It does not matter. You've already decided it does not matter. You can rush all 11 guys. It does not matter. So the one thing you are trying to do, the one thing you're trying to accomplish in this game is to not allow an important player to get hurt. And the Bullard thing is crazy. Because, well, first of all, if for some reason Melton and Bullard can't go, that's 2 more players in your secondary that are now down. But slot becomes insanely interesting and problematic. I think, like against the Bears, probably even the Eagles, for example, you're probably going with some form of Nixon and either Diggs or Valentine on the outside. and probably Oladapo now in the slot, which is a much different situation than Javon Bullard. Oladapo does not have those coverage skills. And then Evan Williams and Xavier McKinney at safety. And on obvious passing downs, you might be looking at Valentine and and Diggs on the outside with now Nixon in the slot. I don't know. But that is a stupid way to end that game. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know why you would put them in that situation and to play them like on and off throughout the course of the game. And I understand there's probably some part of you that's thinking, all right, we've got, 40 some guys playing in this game. Even if, a player or two gets hurt, Bullard and Williams are both playing half. What are the odds that they're the ones? But you know what the odds are. Anyone that can get hurt this season for Green Bay basically will get hurt. And so to put Javon Bullard in that situation and Evan Williams in that situation and Jaden Reed in that situation, everything else I thought they handled pretty damn well. And they were trying to, again, not have Jaden Reed play with Bo Melton being healthy. But once Melton goes out, then Reed comes. I still disagree with that decision, but I never understood the safety situation. Never, ever understood it. Hate it. And hopefully Javon Bullard is okay. Hopefully it's not anything major. It sounded like he got out of the medical tent really quick. He was ruled as questionable, still had his helmet. And if somehow, he's okay, it's probably much ado about nothing and you get away with it. But I just thought it was a really, really stupid decision to have either of those people in the game. Again, Evan Williams, Javon Bullard, and Jaden Reed specifically. And hopefully it does not come back to haunt them. All right, let's get to some super chats. I understand that this game means nothing, but I still want Green Bay to have the best players if possible, and I don't understand how we couldn't find a better QB3. Tyler, let's just put it this way. Green Bay has two of the best 25 quarterbacks in the NFL. You're not setting yourself up for any. Nobody has a good number 3 quarterback. A lot of teams don't have a good number 1. Plenty of teams have no good number 2. Nobody has a good number 3. It's a nightmare fest once you basically get to that spot. And you can argue certainly that teams have had some better number 3s than what Green Bay has had with Clayton Tune. That seals the Clayton Tune era in Green Bay. I think that's done and over with. I can't imagine that he's going to be back next year. He was not in a good position in this game. You've got a really crappy offensive line. It's Bo Melton and a first-time wide receiver that are out there, backup tight ends, and then Brian Flores' defense on the road in Minnesota. That's as crappy of a situation as it gets, but Tune just looked entirely uncomfortable and was incapable of running an NFL offense. So, yeah, I mean, if I'm Green Bay, this is probably the question you have to ask, or the conversation you need to have after that game is, Malik Willis was questionable in this game. If Malik can't go, do you feel comfortable with Clayton Tune being your backup next week going into the playoffs with Jordan Love as your only capable player? The answer has to be no. I think if you're Green Bay, you legitimately might, and I know you have Ritter as well, but Ritter just got here. But maybe it's Ritter. Maybe you look around a little bit to see if there's another quarterback that you can find. Maybe you can convince Indianapolis to release Phillip Rivers and get Phillip Rivers in. I say that in jest, but either way, I think probably need to look at that a little bit as to if Willis can't go, which hopefully isn't the case. But if he can't, who do you want as your backup? Because Clayton Tune clearly gives you nothing. Even if he had a full complement of starters, I don't think that probably looks a whole heck of a lot different. I hope this team gets blown out in the first round. Any chance? All right. Just a stupid comment. Go Pack Go. Just you're not a fan. You're absolutely not a fan. It's just a dumb, stupid comment. You're going to hope that the Packers get blown out in the first round. Just get out. Just a stupid comment. We all felt the momentum swing with that kick. They got points. I think it was just clearly not wanting to get shut out, right? Not give the Vikings the satisfaction of shutting out Green Bay. I think that was pretty much all there was to it on that particular play. Gary shouldn't play over any of the guys today. I will say, there were a couple of those guys, Colin Oliver, specifically Baron Sorrell, who played some pretty good football in that game. I thought the line held up really impressively, all things considered. The defense did as much, work as they could in that game. That was not an easy situation to be in. It's easier when you consider the fact that, Minnesota doesn't have good quarterbacks, but I thought the defensive line held up about as well as could be expected. And guys like Barron Sorrell, Colin Oliver, especially Sorrell, really looked the part. I'm excited, not much. I'm excited to break the tape down in this one, but the defensive line is certainly one of those. What do we end up having in this one? So we had 64 plays on offense for Minnesota, 50 for Green Bay, 363 yards for the Vikings, 121 for the Packers. Packers ended with -7 passing yards. -7 passing yards. That is just an absurd statistic. And time of possession was actually close, all things considered. But yeah, not a very, very ugly game. 12 first downs for Green Bay. End up again losing 16-3. But yeah, not exactly the most fun game in the world. Riley, thank you for the super chat. Laser guns pointed at Earth. 1 2-minute drive to save the world. Who you'd say? Oh, it's Tim Boyle all day, every day. I don't even question it. That's an easy decision. Easy decision. I'm taking Tim Boyle. I like how you said laser guns, though, Alex, for the laser show. At least we didn't get it shut out onto the playoffs. It's all that matters. This game has no, again, if anyone's upset about this game or only scoring 3 points, or it just flush it. Didn't matter. They didn't care about it. Don't care about it. Don't care about the loss. It doesn't really matter whatsoever. Two things, Barron and Sorrell, he a menace. Yeah, I thought that was a really nice performance from Barron Sorrell. Not a ton of fun takeaways from this one. Barron Sorrell was probably the best of the takeaways from this one. All right. I don't know what that means. Do you have a setup tour? I am not going on tour. I don't know exactly what you mean, but I'm not going on tour. All right. Could the Packers just forfeit, or does the TV contract and or gambling? Yeah, I think they would get a pretty significant fine and or penalties from the NFL if they tried to forfeit a game. I don't think there was ever a situation where that was going to happen. Y'all could have been way worse. The Vikings aren't great. Yeah, it could have been worse. Obviously had the McCarthy injury and things like that, but it's just an ugly game. It's bad football. That's the bummer part, is that you only get 17 regular season games, and when one of them is as bad, if not worse, than an exhibition game, that's disappointing. But I don't know how more clear I could have been in either the pregame show or the live pregame show of just how bowling shoe ugly this thing was going to be. So yeah, no surprise there. This was always destined to be a complete toilet bowl of a game. JJS Breaks, thank you for the super chat. If any coach could rally this team to make a run in the playoffs after a 4-game losing streak that included embarrassing chokes and else, it would be Matt LaFleur. He's proven that his teams definitely aren't mentally soft. Yeah, I guess we'll see. This is going to be a very big game for this franchise and this team coming up. Really don't want to go one and done again in the playoffs. Certainly don't want to lose to Chicago if that's who it ends up being against. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see how this team performs, but it's a huge game. It's a huge game for Matt, Jordan, this franchise to hopefully get a win in the playoffs again and back trending in the right direction. And you really, really don't want to go on a 5-game losing streak to end your year. No question about it. Is it hard to understand that we are still trying to make a push after losing 2 starters every game for the last month? We can still make a push. Is it hard to understand that we are still trying? No, I don't think it's hard to understand. I mean, this team is clearly going to do everything they can to win next week, and it's going to take everyone playing a really good brand of football. I think, honestly, in a weird way, this game was probably just a nice little reset. Again, did not have stakes in it. And now to get, extra hyped up and ramped up this week, we'll learn later today what day the Packers play, whether that's Saturday, Sunday, or Monday. I would assume if it's Packers-Bears, that's going to be one of the Sunday games, either the 3:30 or the primetime game. That would be my assumption. I think you could rule out, no matter what, it's not going to be the early Saturday game. I would be stunned if either Packers-Eagles or Packers-Bears. That's usually the worst game of the week. That'll be the NFC South matchup. That'll be like the 4-5 or something like that. And then I just think it's your top 3 premier games are probably the 2 late games on Sunday, those are your 2 premier games. And I would assume it's probably going to be one of those, but we'll see. We should get an update later today. Either way, those 3 games the 2 games possible, Packers, Eagles, or Packers, Bears, are 2 pretty good games on paper that I would assume would want the NFL would want a lot of eyes on those games. Matt LaFleur was idiotic to play starters at safety, fireable. Again, That's too far of MVP. It's not fireable because he played Javon Bullard, but it was a very stupid decision. That is a ridiculous touchdown by the Saints. But they're going to need an onside kick to win this game. That is a crazy Ronnie Bell from Tyler Shuck for a touchdown. They'll get the extra point here and then not need an onside kick. They've got no timeouts left. So that's what this one will come down to, is another onside kick recovery here. Wearing Sean Clifford. Sean Clifford probably is better in that game, if we're being honest. I think Sean Clifford would have done better than that, than what Clayton Tune did today. Thank you for the super chat, Riley. Dobbs, number 1 wide receiver, leads in yards, receptions, targets, touchdowns. Yeah, Christian Watson's your number 1 wide receiver, Whalers. There's zero question about that. Watson's been one of the best wide receivers in football since he's come back. He is absolutely wide receiver 1. And of all the talk of who's wide receiver 1 and does Green Bay have one? And it's Watson by a mile, and he's been unbelievable since coming back. Heard Javon was smiling doing lunges after going down. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Still think it's a stupid decision either way. The game means nothing, but why not let them play instead of just run it? Didn't expect to win, but dang, and what? Did you see them pass today, Kipperoni? Did you see them? They had negative passing yards on the day. I mean, you've got a backup offensive line and a quarterback that, can't throw, and wide receivers that are, especially in Kenny James that just got there. Drake Dabney's in that tight end. They had negative passing yards. They went backwards in every time they dropped back to pass. They went backwards. They honestly felt, and rightfully so, that if you needed 15 yards on a play, it was better to hand off. If you needed 5 yards, better to hand off. If you needed any yardage, if you needed positive yardage, it was better to hand off than it was to throw the ball. And that's why you saw that the play calling the way that it was. Again, doesn't matter either way, but throwing was ugly. You had negative yardage passing in a NFL game. You would have been better if Clayton Tune never threw the ball in that game. You would have had more yardage, easily more yardage if Clayton Tune never threw a ball. I don't think that the result's not going to be any different, but they would have had more yardage in that game if Clayton Tune never dropped back to pass. My Viking fan friend was unironically super happy with JJ's performance today. It really is that miserable for them. Give me the Bears. We got this. It's remarkable of just how, as a franchise, your mind is just skewed. Like JJ McCarthy, like everyone in Green Bay, if he was the starting quarterback, would be immediately calling for his demise and to cut him, trade him, get rid of him, etc. And yet there still seems to be some hope in Minnesota. I still think he has some talent in him. That is a non-successful onside kick. So the Falcons are going to win that game, 19-17. But yeah, tough sledding right now for the Vikings quarterback position. They're going to have to do something in the offseason. How are we feeling about 2026 pros? Tucker, Micah, Love, Cons, corner, defensive tackle, offensive line. Yeah, that's probably the best way to put it, Alex, but a long way to go before they play their first game. Corner, defensive tackle, offensive line. There's going to be some new blood in those rooms. And obviously defensive line, even defensive tackle, just getting Wyatt back will help a ton. Being able to kick Micah around and things like that. Even just that will be super helpful. A healthy Zach Tom for the year. There's a lot that will help, but corner, defensive tackle, line will need some new blood for sure. William, thank you for being a member for 2 months. Are they going to expand rosters with more games? Well, there's no plan right now to move to more games, but if they do go to an 18-game season, then I think my guess is it goes from like 53 to 55 man rosters would be my guess. And you probably go from probably just one more active on game day, maybe 48 to 49 or maybe 48 to 50. But either way, I don't expect any like hardcore changes. But I hope and still continue to hope that they go to 2 bye weeks if they do that and give some players the extra rest going to an 18-game season. Trans Rights, thanks for being here and for being a member for 19 months. Thanks for a great regular season, Andy. We're on to the postseason. Now we get to watch in this 3:30 window if Green Bay is going to be going to Chicago or if they're going to be going to Philadelphia. Thank God Golden didn't get hurt. Honestly, I don't mean to sound like a jerk here. I want Golden to be healthy, but he's their number 5 wide receiver. I honestly don't even think it really affects them at all going into next week if Golden's not healthy for that game. Now, you do need depth. Savion Williams is on IR. Bo Melton just went down. If Golden goes down too, that's not ideal. You probably don't want Keeney Smith and, Wicks has still got the concussion stuff, but next week, I'm guessing Dobbs and, Reed, Watson, and Wicks are going to be their top 4 wide receivers. So I wouldn't have lost a ton of sleep about losing wide receiver 5, if I'm being honest. I mean, he has like a catch per game. And if that one catch goes to somebody else, I'm not sure it matters all that much right now. Again, I am as high as you could be still on Matthew Golden. I think he's going to be a super talented wide receiver in this league, but right now for this season, I don't think it matters that much. Dobbs says outperformed everyone in that wide receiver room, including Watson, since joining the team 4 years ago. Numbers don't lie. Yeah, this is why we don't box score scout whalers. That's great, but Romeo is playing his last couple games as a Green Bay Packer, and Christian Watson is very firmly in that spot as wide receiver 1. Jaden Reed is wide receiver 2 moving forward. And then Golden and Wicks will kind of fit in after that. But yeah, again, it's not to be disparaging towards Romeo Dobbs or anything like that. It's great that he's got some sound numbers and whatever, but those are, they're fine numbers. They're fine. And he's been a fine wide receiver, but he'll be gone in the offseason. Any first impressions on Diggs? I thought for the most part looked solid, especially for his first game with a new team. Pretty minimal snaps, but want to watch it on the all-22 before I jump to any crazy conclusions on it. See how he covered in general. Made a nice tackle in the open field. Didn't seem to give up anything aggressive in coverage or egregious in coverage, I should say. So I think overall, fairly decent first impression, if nothing else. Anyone see Caleb wearing Ben's high school jersey to the Lions game? I did not see that. That's pretty funny though. That stuff I enjoy, like doing little things like that. That's more fun than Amon-Ra St. Brown doing Green Bay sucks or wearing cheese grater hats or things like that. That's a cooler look. So good on the Bears for that. Thank you to this. I love you guys. 600 plus people in a live chat following a game that completely didn't matter, where there's really nothing to talk about. Barron Sorrell played well. Javon Bullard and Bo Melton had some injuries that are disadvantageous. And that's about it. There's not a ton else to talk about from that game. Packers coach Matt LaFleur says he thinks safety Javon Bullard is going to be okay. Said he feels better than he did last year after the game with Watson's ACL tear. I thought this was the best decision. Said he had to play Bullard or Evan Williams and nickel when matching Vikings personnel. You didn't have to do that. I vehemently disagree that you had to do that. And again, I like the whole matching personnel. Dude, the Vikings could have scored 90 in this game, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It absolutely does not matter. If the Vikings win this game 100-0 and Javon Bullard is healthy, I would 1,000,000,000% rather have that than lose 16-3 and Javon Bullard's hurt. I mean, it's a no-brainer. I don't know. I disagree, but hopefully, thankfully, it sounds like he's going to be okay. What did we do a triple take on? Oh, the jersey. Okay, gotcha. All right. Watson has almost equaled Dobbs' output in 10 games. It's been close and probably would have come closer if he had another game today, but Watson's been unbelievable. He's been fantastic. Didn't mean throwing it would have been a better result, just would have been more exciting to watch arm punts, in my opinion. I don't know that he would have had time for the arm punts. I mean, a lot of those plays where he dropped back to pass, it was just, he was nuked. He was nuked immediately. So I don't disagree necessarily, Kipperoni, in the fact that it maybe could have been more entertaining, but the other thing that you're trying to do is make sure that Clayton Tune can stay in that game. The more you drop him back to pass, the more opportunity there is for him to get annihilated, which means all of a sudden you got to put Jordan Love in the game. So I think they were just being safe all the way around on that side of the ball. I just wish they would have been a little bit more safe with Reed, Bullard and Evan Williams. Hope the Packers play the Eagles because losing to the Bears will suck. You play to win the game, as what Herm Edwards would say. We're not playing to lose. We're playing to win. Going to Chicago to win the football game. Rusty, there's 0% chance that any of that you just said will come true. 0% chance. Less than 0%. .con, so is Gary gone next season with Oliver and Sorrell? Regardless of Oliver and Sorrell, I think the overwhelming feeling right now is that there's a good chance that Gary is not back, and releasing him makes the most sense. But we know that Green Bay at times is loyal to a fault with who they keep as their just on their team in general. So I think he's gone, but with the Packers, you never ever quite know for sure. Andy, I know you like Savion State coming out. Do you think he has a higher upside than Golden long term? No, I do not. Williams just has a long way to go as an actual wide receiver. He's talented, he's fun, but I think, again, I'm still very, very high on Matthew Golden. If it is Packers-Bears, that will be the highest stakes playoff game in years. I will accept this season if we send the Bears home. Losing would be unbearable. It would have insanely high stakes. Insanely high stakes. No question about it. Never want to lose to your rival, division rival in the playoffs and have them move on and have you go home. That's as bad as it gets. So the stakes will be extremely high. I think Green Bay Chicago is such a toss-up, but it is fair to say if it's a blowout, it's likely the Bears blow them out. I don't agree with that. Also, by the way, I don't know if you guys saw this, but per a couple of the sports books going into the week, it was basically stated that the Packers would be favorites going into Chicago. Basically a coin flip, a toss-up, but slight favorites for Green Bay if they face Chicago. Now we'll see if that actually comes to fruition, if we get that game. I think the big thing to watch is for Chicago too. They got a game to play. How much do they play their guys, and do they sustain any injuries? Texans going to recover. Do we get a big guy touchdown? We do. That was awesome. What a way to end the regular season for the Texans. Big number 72 with a touchdown with ending regulation. That was awesome. Tommy Togiai, whatever it is. 38-0. I don't think they have to kick the extra point anymore. I don't think that's a requirement. Used to be, but 38-0. Texans win. Cool way to end for the Texans. I think somebody asked about if I got a new camera. Now, my lighting's a little bit different when I have a game going, so I can keep an eye on it. So usually I've got a light over here and a light over here. And so there's both. And now I just have two lights over there and no light over there. And then I got my little ring light trying to provide as much light as possible over here, but it's not quite as much. So just looks a little bit different, but allows me to keep an eye on a couple of the games here. Yeah, I don't think there's anything that's going to lose Matt's job. If they lose like 50, I don't even think that. I just don't think that scenario is going to happen. And I just don't think there's any way he loses his job. And certainly Ed Policy in his newsletter this week did not seem like a president that was trigger happy to get rid of his coach and GM. Andy, when are we getting TBEN? Oh, when are we getting the new backdrop to all NL backdrops in your set? Have a final meeting this week. So I'm excited about that. Final meeting this week. And then, we will have, it just depends on when the people can come in and get the job done, but it's going to be sweet. It's going to be very, very sweet. I'm super geeked up about it. A couple things that I have to figure out with it yet, but if it happens the way that I want it to happen, I'm so freaking excited for it. Travis TRVS Johnson 21 gifting 50 of the 711 people in here in chat brand new Pack-A-Day podcast memberships. Travis, that is unbelievably awesome. Thank you so much for that. That is so cool. We're going to have some fun, members content this week, including our members only Q&A. We'll have the Aaron Nagler preview coming out this week as well. We'll see if we get any Ross Uglum content, but you also get early access to videos. So keep an eye out for all of that stuff. But if for those of you who are gifted the memberships, if you enjoy it, definitely consider keeping it. But Travis, that's a really awesome gesture. And thank you so much for that. Yeah, at first glance, I liked it. I thought he showed some juice off the edge. What I was impressed by is a couple plays I was watching him closely, hung well in the run game. So he's undersized, right? He's a quote unquote designated pass rusher. But I thought he battled in rundowns. And then, he seemed to have a good understanding too of what to do. This was, and remember, if I remember correctly, it's been a hot second, but I think he was kind of like team captain, highly thought of guy on his team. He seemed to have that energy, enthusiasm, and kind of played out there like a team captain sort of guy. So I just was impressed with his overall dynamic and how he played. And hopefully he continues upon that. This was such an awesome experience for him. My guess is that's probably the last we see Colin Oliver this year. he just has 6 guys in front of him, and you can make the Rashawn Gary jokes or whatever. Rashawn Gary is going to be active. Enigbari is going to be active. LVN is going to be active. Then you have Mosby, who's going to be active on game days. And then you basically have one more spot in all likelihood against most teams. And that's going to come down to Brenton Cox, Barron Sorrell, and Colin Oliver. And if you wanted to make an argument for any of the 3, I'd be willing to listen to it. But based on how Sorrell played today, I would lean towards Sorrell just in general. And obviously Cox has given them some good snaps, and, Colin's just still a little bit raw at the position, but I like all 3. And if they wanted to go with any of them, that's cool. But I thought today was so important just to get him some reps in the game and to put some tape out there and et cetera, just to get a feel for the NFL. There's not a lot of great things that came out of this one, but at the end of the day, getting him some reps, I think is a positive takeaway. Seth Ishman. Seth Ishman. I don't know. Sorry, Seth Tishman. Wondering what you saw in pass pro today. Did Morgan struggle? I know we all saw that play where he gave up the sack and Toon got obliterated. It's a quick passing concept. All right. So that's supposed to be 3-stepping out, and the defensive end's never supposed to get there. I don't know what Toon saw in not getting rid of that ball. I'll have to kind of watch it again on the all 22, but that's supposed to be quick concept. Now, I'll have to go back and watch that one. I'll have to go back and watch the tape and see if it was bad. I know there were a couple plays that didn't look great. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what it looks like. First glance, it didn't seem awesome. And I would probably be more now to say, all right, maybe just keep Sheed at that spot next week. But again, I want to look and see what it looks like on all 22 before I jump to any crazy conclusions with it. Do you think Sorrell can be the 3 next season if Gary and Enigbari aren't back? I think he would compete for it for sure. I think, what I've said, you're going to have LVN and Parsons, right? And then I think at your number 4, you're going to have Sorrell. Number 5, you're going to have Colin Oliver. Maybe Mosby's back as like the 6th special teams defensive end kind of guy, right? I think you need one more guy in that like number 3 spot. And whether that's, Rashawn Gary, who I don't think it should be, we've talked about that, or whether it's Enigbari, which to me, it depends on the cost, or whether you bring in, another, 2nd, 3rd round pick, or whether you bring in a decent priced free agent. I think there needs to be one more player there. I don't think you want to go just into the offseason or into the season, with Parsons, LVN, Sorrell, Oliver, and, kind of a lower tier guy. I don't think that's ideal. But again, if Sorrell is there, and it's, maybe it isn't Enigbari or Gary, and maybe it is just kind of a flyer free agent or a 3rd round pick or something like that, Sorrell and Oliver will absolutely compete for those spots. No question about it. 730 Packers sickos in the chat. I would not have it any other way. You guys are awesome. You can time Toon's release with a sundial. It's not great. It's not great. Oh, I am absolutely doing film review and grades for this game. Zero question about it. Never stop, no matter what. I mean, I've done every game since 2017, and I certainly am not going to miss it, even though this is a glorified exhibition game. Still going to do it. Still going to do it. Sounds like Bullard is okay. Matt said he thinks they avoided any injury or something to that extent. I have not heard anything or seen anything on Melton quite yet. All right. True fan is a true fan. That's why we're all here. Love it, JMC21. Quick synopsis: wasn't on local TV and was out about all day. Jesse, my quick synopsis is you won. You did it the right way. You didn't miss anything. Quick synopsis is Javon Bullard and Bo Melton got hurt. Bullard seems like he's okay. They didn't play any starters other than basically Reed for a little bit, Bullard and Evan Williams. And then, they scored 3 points. They had negative passing yards. It was an ugly football game. You're going to see few football games that are less aesthetically pleasing than that one. They got a field goal at the very end to get their 3 points, and that was basically it. Is that true? The floor's never been shut out? That sounds true. I can't remember a shutout, but Yeah, I don't recall one. Maybe I'd have to go back and look at it for sure, but I don't recall one. What can we even take away from this? The defense, there's never anything to take away from this beast. Never ever. They could have won 100-0, lost 100-0. There's nothing to take away from this. Get injuries and a couple of young players playing well. Tyron Hopper, Kitano Ladapo, Baron Sorrell, some things like that. There's some takeaways. You learned some things. You learned that Clayton Tune, you do not want to be your number 2 quarterback ever. You learned that Keeney Smith, probably also not your answer at returner. So you got some answers to some interesting questions, but there's never much to take away from this one. GPG Cat saying thank you for the membership. I didn't see who gifted it. It was Travis Johnson, TRVS Johnson. I don't know if I can pull that back up. Yeah, so Travis gifted 50 Pack-A-Day podcast membership. So huge shout out to Travis for that. Yeah, Myles Garrett did it. Got the sack. Did Burrow pull the Favre? I know it was a drop back. I didn't see him. Maybe they didn't need to at that point. I didn't see it. All I saw was the sack. Sorrell performance in the unknown, but high hopes for Oliver. I have to think Gary is gone at the end of the year. It seems to be trending that way. Any of the young guys that gave you some spark for the postseason? I don't think that, I don't know that there's anybody I saw today that I'm like, oh my God, that's going to be a game changer come Chicago or Philly. I don't think there's anything like that. But Sorrell gave me the confidence that if he needs to play a little bit, he can play a little bit. And Kitano Ladapo, I still think is a good player. Thought Jamin Johnson, Tyron Hopper made some plays. I'm sure they made some bad plays too. But yeah, I don't think there's anybody that I came away from this game being like, holy crap, look what we found in this game. That's a game changer. Not quite there, but I thought Sorrell had a really nice game. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, Eric. I thought Monk played pretty well also. That's another interesting one. Or again, it just might give them a little bit different thoughts on their depth on the offensive line and how they kind of utilize that. But yeah, I thought Monk had a pretty nice day at first glance as well. Again, not a ton of opportunity for Diggs, but I thought when given the opportunity, for the most part, it looked like he played decent. But again, want to watch the L22. What was the last away game that I went to? It was a Vikings game in Minnesota about 3 years ago. The Packers lost. Don't remember the exact scenario, situation, week or year or anything like that. It was a later season, probably December, early December-ish Vikings game, maybe late November Vikings game in Minnesota. It was really cold, really windy, obviously not inside. It was, inside, of course. But yeah, I don't remember the exact, I know the Packers lost. But yeah, it was in the new stadium. So probably about 3 years ago, somewhere around there was my last away game that I went to. I haven't been to many. Been to the old Metrodome, been to the new Viking Stadium, been to St. Louis when the Rams played in St. Louis, Packers game there. Went to Atlanta in the Mercedes-Benz Dome to see the Packers play down there. And I think that's it. So I think only 4 away stadiums. I haven't been to a ton. Yeah, I can't think of any other ones that I've been to. Tune isn't good, which isn't surprising. What are the odds of having 3 good quarterbacks on one roster? It's not good. I'm just happy they have 2 really good ones. Did Whalen earn getting his snaps graded this week? No, we don't grade special teams here, Dylan. There is no grading special teams. We just don't do it. It's a non-starter. All right, so we got Bears and Lions kicking off, as well as Commanders, Washington, and the rest of the 3:25 slate of games. And again, the big thing to keep an eye on here, Bears win, Green Bay goes to Chicago. If the Bears lose, all right, if the Bears lose and Philly wins, Green Bay goes to Philly. If the Bears lose and Philly loses, Green Bay still goes to Chicago. Simple as that. Can you name all of the all the players on the 53 from memory right now? Okay. Jordan Love, Malik Willis. Tune was not. No, Tune is on the 53, right? Tune was not a call-up. He was a 53. Ritter would have been a call-up. So Tune, Jacobs, Wilson, Chris Brooks. All right. Watson, Reed, Dobbs, Golden. Watson, Reed, Dobbs, Golden, Wicks, Keeney, James, was also a 53. All right, so up to 12. That should be all the wide receivers. Musgrave, Wiley, and then Dabney was a call up. So I think that's that. That's 14. All right. So offensive line, you're going to have Walker. So that's 15. Banks, Ryan, Belton, and then Zach Tom, Jordan Morgan. So up to 20. And then you've got Luiges Smith, who was added to the 53, I believe, as well. And then who else? Did I say Jacob Monk? Shoot, now I'm just losing track of who I said and who I didn't say. Jacob Monk. And then there's got to be at least one or two more offensive linemen. All right, so Monk, Morgan, Ryan, or who's the right? What did I say? Oh yeah, Monk, Morgan, Luiges Smith. All right, I might have to come back to offensive line. There's definitely one more, right? They don't only have 8. Donovan Jennings is gone. That's going to tick me off. All right, Colin Oliver, Baron Sorrell, Brenton Cox, Aaron Mosby, LVN, Rashawn Gary. And then Nasir Stackhouse, Warren Brinson. So that's 30. Stackhouse, Brinson, Wooden, Brooks, Stackhouse, Brinson, Brooks, and Jonathan Ford, Cooper, Quay. Jamin Johnson was a call-up. See, this is the tough part with this week is which ones were call-ups and which ones were actually activated at 53. I think Jamin Johnson was a call-up. So then you've got Hopper, McDuffie, Diggs, Nixon, Valentine is 40. Diggs, Nixon, Valentine. I don't think I've done Bo Melton yet, would be 41. And then Bartholomew is 42. Jalen Simpson's 43. And then you've got safeties. God, who else do we got? We got Oladapo, Xavier McKinney, Bullard, Evan Williams. And then the other guy, the new guy. Why can't I think of his name? Oh, that's going to bother me too. Your 3 specialists, Orzik, Whelan, and McManus. Jonathan Baldwin is the other safety. And I'm missing an offensive lineman and I think probably a defensive lineman that I'm forgetting. All right. How did I do? I missed 2 off the top of my head. If I would have wrote everyone down, I think I probably would have done better. But Luiges Smith, Jordan Morgan. I don't know. Who did I miss? I missed 2. I missed 2 for sure. Who's the offensive lineman I missed? Darian Kennard. That's so stupid. So I missed Darian Kennard. I don't know who else I missed. I missed one other one, maybe, or I counted wrong. One of the other ones. Maybe I missed somebody obvious. I feel like Darian Kennard's the only one I missed. I don't know. Either way. Sorry. That was probably way too long and probably way too boring. But once somebody challenged me, I had to do it. I left out Zach Tom. Okay. Oh, Enigbari, I think it was. You're right. I missed Enigbari. Obviously, I would have known Enigbari if I would have started writing them down. Kennard, I obviously would have known too. But yeah, those are the 2 I missed. Sorry for doing that. But now I had to. Like I said, I had to do it once somebody challenged me. I'm very mad that I missed 2. I'll have to look at the Burrow sack. I definitely want to take a look at it. Lions driving, by the way. Goff 3 for 3 already. This Bears defense is just atrocious. And now Jameson Williams gets a broken tackle. He picks up a first. Looks like it's going to be maybe 1st and goal from the 10 or maybe 1st and 10 from the 11, one of the 2. Yeah, just getting everyone right this week was a chore in and of itself. I think Musgrave played a couple plays. We'll see if Justice has it up yet. No, I don't think he does. But yeah, I do think Musgrave played a couple snaps early in the game. No, I don't think anyone's satisfied with just making it to the playoffs, Daryl. I don't think anyone's that way at all. I think everyone understands the situation with how beat up they are. I don't think there's any question about that. But I don't think anyone, no matter what, is going to be satisfied with a first round exit. I think everyone's going to be frustrated to some real extent if that ends up being the case. Yeah, of course. There's no way. There's no way. And again, this game doesn't even matter. Just throw this one out. It's 3 games in a row. Ultimately, this is just a preseason game. A lot of ball game left. Go Pack, go into the postseason. I hope you're right, Autumn. Hope we have a lot of games left. Hope it's not just one. Jadeveon Clowney, 6.5 sacks in a 1-year, $3.5 million deal. Just wanted to throw that out there. Yeah, that was a good pickup for them. Good pickup. Why didn't the Packers run? They tried a couple screenplays in this game and they just got blown up. I mean, it's just really tough to get the timing down on those screenplays when you're in a situation where, your backup offensive lineman, third string quarterback, touchdown Bills, by the way. It's just a really difficult situation to get all that timing down. They ran a couple of them and they were all disastrous. This is always just going to be a game where it looked really nuclear on offense. I'm sure Love would have wanted to play. I think you always want to play, but I also think that he understands it. I don't think there was any real frustration with it by any means. Again, it was more beast of just A, trying to do it somewhat quick so I didn't spend too much more time on it, and B, like if I would have been able to write down, I would have quickly recognized who I was missing on both situations. Hubby and I were joking if we took a drink for every time for a name we didn't recognize, we'd be asleep by now. It could have been the case. You need a whole show where Andy has to name the final 53 for every season for the last 20 years. I don't want that show. Yeah, I thought Bartholomew made a couple of nice plays. I thought he made a couple of nice plays in this one. Yeah. Again, I don't know if I want the Lions to win. I think if Washington wins, I want Chicago. So I want the Lions to win, but I still want to play Chicago. So that I guess we need a Washington win in that situation. But I want to face Chicago. Their defense is terrible. Big 3rd and 6 here for Detroit. Jameson Williams goes in motion. Jared Goff back to pass 1 on the play clock. He does not get it off. It is a timeout, Detroit. And we'll get back to our 3rd and 6 following the timeout. I'm willing to admit that I'll be satisfied with a second round exit. I'm not expecting much, but another first round exit would be frustrating. I think that's probably where I don't think anyone's going to be just, again, satisfied with a first round win. Once you get in the playoffs, we all get our hopes up. Again, you're playing for a Super Bowl. That's what you're playing to get to. And so, again, I don't think there's ever a level of satisfaction when you get eliminated from the playoffs, no matter what you did up to that point. Probably the closest was the Packers 49ers game after beating the Cowboys, where you got a big win against Dallas. You felt like you were ahead of schedule and you competed with the 49ers, probably should have won the game. Like that's probably the one where you kind of come away feeling like, oh, I feel really good, even still following the loss. But I think either way, you're going to be disappointed if the Packers end up getting eliminated. Bears. I actually am not scared of either, to be honest. But I mean, the Eagles beat Green Bay in Brazil. They beat them in Green Bay. They beat them in Philly. No matter what, they've struggled with that matchup. So, yeah. Packers coach Matt LaFleur said that Jordan Love would not have thrown a pass if he had been required to play, which is expected all the way around. So Bears hold. Lions going to have to settle for a field goal. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson on Amon-Ra St. Brown. Brisker comes in, breaks it up. Good play by Chicago's defense. 4th and 6, and Jake Bates on for the field goal. They'll come out swinging. I think they will. Just can't have a fumble on the opening kick return. That would be a good start. We'd all love to beat the Bears in the playoffs, no question. Yeah, at first glance, I thought Monk played well. Excited to watch him on tape. Yep, like Sorrell and Oliver as well. I would not eat a black olive Luigi's Pizza. I can't do black olives. Black olives and mayonnaise are my two. Any olives, mayonnaise, any sort of vinegar, anything, all of that is completely off limits. Won't do it. Why don't the Packers run screenplays as a sentence? It was funny. I didn't think, did they run an end around or reverse in this game at all? This was the one game I'm like that. This is the one where with Keeney Smith or Golden, it actually makes sense to run the reverses. I don't think they did any of the end arounds or jet sweeps in this game. Probably, I don't know. I guess if you're considering that LVN was the first round pick and who was on the board at the time, maybe it's a little bit more LVN, but they're definitely based on draft position, both disappointments. Feel like the Packers can beat or lose to anyone, so I kind of want the Eagles because that loss is much less embarrassing, but at the same time, I feel the Bears are an easier win. I think both are going to be really would be really entertaining games either way. Absolutely have a shot versus the Seahawks. Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. I get the realism, Beast Bumblebee. No question. M. Dot says, I want to play Chicago and I want Dan Campbell buried fourth in the division. Easy rooting interest. All right. I can't root for the Bears though, M. I can cheer against the Lions, but I can't root for the Bears. I don't think there's any, Nasua says, do you ever go 2 quarterback sets with Willis and Love? And I just don't think you want to go in that direction. Josh says Green Bay can win or lose to anyone in the postseason, but I have hope that they'll play a good game against the Bears or the Eagles. I think they will, Josh. I think they will. Jano says the positives are Oliver, Sorrell, and Diggs. It's a good group. Bryn says, thanks for all your coverage, Andy. We're blessed as Packers fans to have your level of analysis and insight. I think the Bears are our best chance, but Eagles would be less stressful. That's probably the second part is a good way to put it. And Bryn, I really appreciate the kind words. Truthfully, I want Philly because I would love to see the Bears try and lose against Detroit. All right. I'm always for cheering for the Bears to lose, but again, I want that loss to be at the hands of the Packers. After watching Seahawks 49ers last night, plus Seahawks PTSD, not sure I would want to play them. I want to play them because it means they won their first round playoff matchup. It's simple as that. Simple as that for me. No anchovies for me either. I don't need any seafood. Anyone asking for Andy to eat black olives or mayonnaise is a cruel individual. Why would you do that to Buddy? I agree, Jeffrey. Have some politeness. Was there a jet sweep? I didn't think there was a jet sweep to Golden. Maybe I'm wrong though. Enigbari probably will play more than Rashawn Gary next week. Sorrell, we just have to see if Sorrell gets active first. That'll probably be a decision between Brenton Cox and Baron Sorrell. Fred, you're more than welcome. Charlie, thank you so much for the kind words. We had a shot for every Packers first down and we're still sober. Great game. Good for you, Ingo. Good for you. Want the 49ers this playoffs. Curse be damned. If we can beat them, our momentum will feel undeniable. You probably have to go, not probably, it's going to either be Philly or Chicago, then Seattle, then San Fran. And if they go, especially if it's Philly, right? If you go to Philly and beat Philly, to Seattle, beat Seattle, to San Fran and beat San Fran, that would be the ultimate exercising of demons, playoff run. Just all the places where Green Bay's had and teams that Green Bay's had nightmares against, just finishing them off all in one fell swoop. That would be satisfying. Got to pay it off with a Super Bowl win too, but that'd be a cool way to do it. Yeah, a couple impressive plays from Brinson. I like Brinson. I think there's something there, but he just has to let the game kind of slow down for him a little bit more. Washington driving on Philly at the moment, by the way. So they've got an opportunity to put up the first points in that game. Again, if Washington beats Philly, then Green Bay faces Chicago. I think the best outcome for today is probably the idea that, again, Washington beats Philly and Detroit beats Chicago. Chicago gets a loss. They don't have any momentum going into the postseason, but you still play Chicago. I think that's a great way for this to happen. So maybe we can get that. We'll see. I don't know why they put Reed in. I completely and vehemently disagree with the decision to put him in. Packaday.podcast@gmail.com. Drew, Packaday.podcast@gmail.com. Know this number seasons don't support this, but I'm far more afraid of Saquon than I am of Swift and Monungai. Saquon, yes, but I think I'm probably more afraid of the Bears rushing attack than the Eagles rushing attack at this point. But Green Bay is going to have to be very stout and much better than they were against Baltimore, to say the least. Totally agree, Beast Bumblebee. Black Olives are terrible. It was a swing pass to Golden. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, Waylon was excellent today. Okay. 1 carry for 8 yards for Golden. Love the light tone tonight after the last 3 weeks. Yeah, stakes matter. And when you don't have stakes, it's a little bit easy to not be too upset after a game like that. I think Golden's just frustrated. Right now. And, when you're a first round pick and there's a ton of expectation and there's a bunch of hype for you going into the season and you just don't have the season to kind of back it up, I think there's just a level of frustration. Sounds like Bullard's okay. I haven't seen anything on Melton quite yet. GPG Cat says, used to manage a Little Caesars, would put on gloves to put anchovies on the pizza, then air out the store because the smell lingered. Just you. Yeah. I can't imagine, doesn't sound great. Assuming the measurables are similar, would you rather have a physical corner that is a good tackler or a finesse cover corner? In general, for corner, I generally tend to want the cover corner. I just think it matters more to be really good in coverage. But it depends on the system that you're playing. If you're playing more man-to-man, or you play more zone, you play more cover 2, it really depends on how you want to play defense. But in general, I'd rather have the better cover player. But man, you better have some tackling ability, because if not, it can be a real liability really quick. It was 1 reception for 8 yards for Golden. Gotcha. That's what I thought it was. I don't think there's any world in which Matt LaFleur is out next week. What I've continued to talk about is I don't think Matt gets fired. I think what is interesting is him going into a contract year, and they're not going to want him on a 1-year lame duck. Nobody's going to want that, Matt nor the Packers. And Matt will not want to go into it with a +1. He's not going to accept just a 1-year extension. So I don't think Matt would not want anything to do with that. Matt's going to want an extension. And if they lose big next week or something like that, I think the Packers are potentially, at least in their right mind to say, hey, we're not going to give you a huge extension. You just lost 5 games in a row. You haven't won a playoff game since 2023, and then you only won 1. Didn't win in 2022. You struggled in 2021. So, I think that's where the conversation gets interesting, but he's not getting fired. I would be stunned. I do think that extension is coming. How much review of this game will you be having? All of it. I mean, it's going to be playoff previews primarily. I think tonight's podcast with Grant and Jacob will touch on this game a bit for tomorrow's show. But the rest of the week, we'll probably touch a little bit with Mike Wall. But I think for the most part, you're going to be looking at, looking ahead to Chicago or Philly, and this upcoming week is what's primarily going to be. It's fairly impressive. Yeah, I thought the defense, the second string defense for Green Bay was as impressive as you could get today. It's a tough situation. I thought they played well, all things considered. So I don't follow all the injuries, but is there a player who could come back next week? Dontavian Wicks, Zach Tom. We'll have to keep an eye on Nick Neiman. So who's the other player? It was Wicks, Malik Willis. So Malik Willis, Zach Tom, Nick Neiman, and Dontavian Wicks would be the 4 players to keep an eye on for players who could come back from injury this coming week. Would you take McCarthy as our backup next year when he said he's not going to get cut? But the Commanders just doinked a field goal, a pretty makeable field goal off the upright. So Philly holds Washington without points on that drive. Eagles offense back on the field. When Golden was drafted with all that pomp and circumstance, I had the thought that he was about to get a cold splash of water to the face. He was feeling like a franchise savior, which he isn't. Again, I think he's going to be really good. Just give him a little bit of time. This is pretty common for a wide receiver in Green Bay to kind of have that basically almost like a redshirt first year. Yeah, I wouldn't put too much thought into it today, Lonnie. They were, again, that defense played as well as could be expected given the consideration or the situation that they were in with having so many backups in. If I'm Green Bay, you give extensions to Goody and Matt. What's the worst that happens? They suck and then you have to fire them. Yeah, you eat a lot of money in that scenario. Or more likely, Green Bay just doesn't fire them because they don't want to eat that money, which is, something that they would consider in that situation. But again, I think they're going to get extensions either way. And if I ran for president on the policy of removing olives from the USA, could I get your vote? Probably, Beast. Probably. Toon doesn't seem to be the follow-up to Malik. He does not, Pokey. I think we just decided that today. I think an extension would be shocking if they undo the Murphy structure, which sounds like it is brewing. I don't think either of those things would be shocking. I don't think an extension is shocking either way. And part of it with policy giving the power back to Goody might be part of that conversation as well. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. No, there was no real talk of Toon being the follow-up to Malik. I don't think anyone expected that. But this was his audition. This was his ability to show like, hey, I should be involved in that conversation. And he didn't do anything to involve himself in that conversation. I honestly don't think it's crazy for Rodgers in Minnesota next year. I really, really don't. If they lose, and depending on what happens, if the Steelers are just like, we're going to move on from Tomlin, we're done with the Rodgers era, and Rodgers still wants to play, I think there's a real chance he could be in Minnesota next year. I really do. I don't think it's crazy at all. And I'm not talking like that I would be betting on it. I don't think it's a 50-50 or better, but I think it's probably like a 10-15% chance. That's not nothing. Lloyd could come back later in the postseason, not this week. I thought Stakos made a couple plays. I'm excited to watch him on the rewatch as well. Murphy structure means that Goody, the GM, the salary cap guru, in this case, Russ Ball, and the head coach all report directly to Mark Murphy. And what most teams do is that you've got your owner, in this case, president, and then the GM reports to them, and then the head coach and the salary cap guru go to the GM and report to the GM. That's how was done in the past for Green Bay. Mike Holmgren reported to Ron Wolf. Mike McCarthy reported to Ted Thompson, but at least for the beginning, and then in the Mark Murphy era, they changed it, and so it's Matt LaFleur, Goody, and Russ Ball all reported to Mark Murphy. What does your coverage and release schedule look like in the offseason? Same. It's different in the fact that we don't have a lot of the guests, but you're still going to get an episode every single day from me. So we do it 365, and then we will still be doing, so no more Pack-A-Day Live with Mike Wall, Mike and Carmen and Paul Brettel, and probably the Paul Farrington show will probably go away in the off season. Justice stays in the off season. And then, Perry and Grant, we usually still try to do every other week when we can. But other than that, you get me every week or every day, I should say. And still happy hour on Friday, and still members only Q&A every single week. So members only Q&A live, happy hour live, and then at least one episode from me every single day. And then there's also an episode on the audio channel in addition to mine every single day as well. Every time my 3-year-old son hears the word bear, he starts singing "The Bears Still Suck." You're a very good parent, Coach Bolt. Very good parent. Anthony Richardson could make sense. Again, Indy has to give up on him for cheap first, and we'll see if they're willing to do that, and if Green Bay has interest. Turley time. Thank you for the super chat. Thanks for a great regular season, Andy. I've learned a lot from you in this community. I still have hope the Cowboys will get the 32nd pick. Let's make it happen. Don't want this to be Rodgers last year, but if it is, at least he goes out on a solid note. He's played respectable this year, not amazing, but not bad. For how many years he's played in his age, he's played more than respectable. It's a really good year for Aaron overall. Yeah, I do not expect the Farrington Show collaboration will go anywhere starting next season. Wall should be back next year. Paul Farrington, Paul Brettel. My hope is to have all those back and running, same as this year, going into next season. Florio has a Stefanski to the Packers story up in Pro Football Talk. Oh, this should be good. If it says an offensive coordinator, then I'm in. We can have that discussion. I do not see a Stefanski to the Packers. Let me search. Say Pro Football Talk or Pro Football Network? Kevin Stefanski could land on his feet in Green Bay if the Packers make a change. It's noted on Saturday the signs in Cleveland are pointing to the blah, blah, blah. Depending on how the postseason goes, Stefanski could land on his feet with one of the teams the Browns upset this year. Browns on the Packers 13-10. Let's see. Without expansion of the postseason field in 2020, the Packers would be on a 4-year streak of no playoff appearances. That could make the wild card round critical for Coach LaFleur and GM Brian Gutekunst. New team president Ed Policy grew up a Browns fans, made it clear in June 2024 that neither LaFleur nor Gutekunst would get contract extensions. Still think that was overblown. Before the end of the 2025 season, and both signed through 2026, does not like lame duck arrangements, which means it'll likely be new contracts or pink slips. Making it to the playoffs is usually good enough, 7 seed or not. In 2023, they advanced to the divisional round, blah, blah, blah. The situation will hit a full boil next. Yeah, that's a nothing burger of an article. That's an absolutely nothing burger of an article. He's just trying to piece things together that I don't think are really quite there, which is kind of very Florian in nature. Behind enemy lines is good. Any thought of finding a similar show with the Bears and the Lions? Not right now. It would have to be the right situation. If the right situation came along, maybe, but it's not something I'm actively looking for. The Micah trade got me into Packers pods, and following along all year with you has been my favorite Packers season yet. Thanks for everything. That's awesome, David. Thank you so much for that. It's one of the reasons I enjoy doing it every day. Every day there's a handful of more people who find the channel and seem to enjoy it. So welcome along for the ride, and thank you so much for being here, and thank you for the super chat as well. Did you see young Paul Farrington's photo with Harrison Smith? I did not see that. I'll have to take a look at that. I would flat out jump out a window if Stefanski's our coach. Can you imagine going from LaFleur to Stefanski? I like Stefanski actually too. That's just a pure downgrade. If Rodgers goes to Minnesota next year, the Farrington collab episodes will be, that's going to be must watch. It'll be absolutely must watch. If we trade Matt LaFleur for a top 10 first round pick and sign Stefanski, I would still be anxious. Yeah, and I don't see either of those things happening. Yeah, that was a weird situation of basing it on growing up as a Browns fan. Well, since he grew up a Browns fan, he must love Kevin Stefanski now that he never did anything successful in Cleveland, basically ever. Very logical sense all the way around. All right, friends, I'm going to head out. Thank you so much for being here. Oh, actually, before we do that, let us do... That's not what I want to do at all. All right, get our comment off the screen here and add our picks for tonight. Who doesn't love picks for tonight? If anything would want to open, here we go. All right, so we have got potentially Aaron Rodgers last game. Huge shout out to Sleeper for sponsoring today's show. I've got Derrick Henry more than 94.5 rushing yards. Aaron Rodgers fewer than 33.5 passing attempts. Kenneth Gainwell more than 27.5 receiving yards. You can decide to go with my picks, or of course, you're probably better off going with something entirely different. Do what you will. But check them out over at Sleeper. You can get a 100% match up to $100 by utilizing code PACKETA. Again, 100% match up to $100 by utilizing code PACKETA. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper for details. Of course, as well, they're available in over 25 states nationwide. So if you haven't checked it out yet, if you're not sure, again, check out Sleeper, and cannot recommend it enough. Makes it really, really fun. You can still get in picks for tonight's game, and then playoffs are going to be really fun with Sleeper next week as well. Try to get a couple more questions in really quick here. Diggs did play today, just sparingly in the first half, but he did play a little bit. Final score next week, I want to know who they're playing first. Detroit's ball, by the way, first and 10, 40-yard line. They're up 3-0 to start the second half. We got a flea flicker. Jared Goff is tipped at the line of scrimmage and falls harmlessly incomplete. Thanks for another great season of Packers info. Let's go pack and win in the playoffs. Let's go, Lonnie. Thanks for being here. Thanks, Andy Rodgers is throwing it 40 times for 500 yards and 5 touchdowns. Could be, Beast. Could be. Packers only the 4th team to make the playoffs after going 0-4 in their final 4 games. The other 3 teams are 0-3, by the way. KG will get 40 yards first quarter alone. Gunslinger tonight in a blaze of glory. Wouldn't be stunned. And we've got an Eagles touchdown. So right now, if both games were to end right now, the Packers would be going to Philly. Both games were to end right now, Packers are going to Philadelphia. Lions up 3-0 on Chicago, and Jameson Williams is picking up a first down and 10 from the 27-ish yard line. And Philly is now up 7-0 pending extra point on Washington. Are they going for 2? Oh no, he's just lining up as the wing guy. Okay. So if both results were to stand right now, Green Bay's going to Philly. We'll see. I'm watching Red Zone right now. Don't forget to like, everyone. Thank you, Kipperoni. You've got the 4-game split on. Yeah, I've just got the Red Zone going. I love Red Zone. Red Zone's fun. All right, friends, I appreciate you a ton. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate you nerding out with me after a ridiculous Packers game that meant absolutely nothing, but you're the absolute best. I will see you guys here tomorrow. Grant Bills and Jacob Westendorf will be joining me, so make sure to check that out. I'll see you then, but until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.